What are ghosts, spirits, or the disembodied beings?
Sometimes souls get so weak in the moments of death that they become what we call soul fragments, which doesn't have enough energy to regenerate or to be born as a soul. For example, the Nirbhaya case. She suffered so much that her entire soul was not liberated. I was sitting in my room and reading a book, and the door was closed. And I suddenly saw someone standing next to my chair. He says, I know you're my sister's friend, and I've just had an accident. I said, where? He said, in Guwahati. UK is the world's largest and strongest hub for paranormal activities, followed by India.
Can you sense something right now in this podcast room? Can you sense any presence or ghost?
I can sense presence. I was coming up the stairs. I met two of them.
Really?
Yes.
I want to know about some famous souls who've passed.
Souls that have not gone into the light. Princess Diana, Divya Bharti, Sri Devi, Sushant Singh Rajput. They are the souls that are still hanging between life and death.
You're saying all of them have died under fishy circumstances, and that is the truth.
That is the truth. And there is foul play.
Dr. Manmit Kumarr, India's leading psychic, medium and spiritual coach, is renowned for her ability to connect with the spiritual realm. After a profound out-of-body experience, she left a successful 19-year-old corporate career to dedicate herself to spirituality.
You've also helped the police nab missing people.
I remember there was a girl who was kidnapped in the US, and a lot of people had written, she's here, she's here. I also wrote down an address. I got a call from an international police investigation, and they said, we found the body.
What happens in a mirror, through a mirror?
You can actually go into different parallel universes. So spirits come through mirrors. That's why they say don't keep a mirror in your bedroom. In reality, if someone has to protect themselves, stop using mirrors in your house. TV screens today, it's like a mirror. So TV screens are also portals. So spirits can easily come in and go out.
What is some of the most bizarre spirit encounter that you've had?
One person who...
What are some of the signs that these spirits would give you?
The first sign is electrical interference. I was recording a podcast and it didn't get recorded. Electrical interference, sound interference, chills, goose flesh. You would feel intense emotions.
Please tell me about the phenomena in Mehandipur, Balaji, people exhibiting unusual behavior.
People who are possessed explain to me how a 64 kg person or even a 47 kg person like I saw when I went to Balaji can pick up a rock of 200 kgs and keep standing in that position. How does science explain the presence of shadows in your pictures? Don't accept water from other places or even in other households.
Food is not a problem, no?
Food is not so much a problem, but white sweets is a problem.
Ghosts and spirits hover around a tamarind tree or a peepal tree. Why is that the case?
Rituals done under a peepal tree, if they go wrong, can really attract spirits to you.
3 things that can protect me from a spirit.
Durga Kavach, Kali and...
Do ghosts come in our dreams?
Of course. Dreams are the biggest portal known to mankind. That's how sleep paralysis happens.
Dr. Kumarr has led mega cancer healing events with top medical professionals, impacting countless lives through her teachings on automatic writing and Akashic records. She conducts international training programs and is currently establishing India's first psychic academy to revolutionize nation's global spiritual understanding. It is our pleasure to have with us on today's paranormal episode of the Body to Being podcast for the very first time, Dr. Manmit Kumarr.
You'll be surprised to know that a lot of Airbnbs now on the hills have been haunted houses once.
What about in this room? Do you sense something?
Yeah, there are about 3.
Oh, wow.
There are about 3. And I'm still getting goose flesh. My whole body is still just...
Research shows that around 20 to 30% of people world over have reported experiencing some kind of spirit presence or paranormal activity. Now, the modern scientists would dub this as pseudoscience. But in traditions which have been steeped in spirituality and religiosity, such as India, Latin America, Thailand, the belief in disembodied beings or the Sukshma Sharira has existed since time immemorial. For instance, the Garud Puran provides detailed accounts of disembodied beings, identifying 17 distinct types. The Bhagavad Gita refers to ghosts as existing in the subtler dimensions. Today's podcast is one such perspective on this topic. Namaskaram. I'm Shlloka, a classical Hatha Yoga teacher. I'm also a diet and lifestyle expert. If you haven't already, I'd be very grateful if you can subscribe to the channel because unfortunately 87% of our viewers don't.
Dr. Manmit, welcome to the Body to Being. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. This is the first time that we are delving into the world of the paranormal and disembodied beings. And I think, as many of our viewers, I've been enchanted with this subject right since my childhood. So, my first question to you is what are ghosts, spirits, or the disembodied beings?
There's only the light and darkness. And ghosts, disembodied beings, and spirits are souls that have not gone into the light. So when we die, we have a choice. We are given a choice. Actually, a portal opens up. So you would know a lot of people who talk about near-death experience saying that we saw a white light. And when I had a near-death experience, I didn't see any white light. So I thought it's such a lie, what a fad. But actually people see a white light. That's the portal. So the portal invites you, your ancestors, your spirit guides come for you. The portal invites you and you go into the light. And from there, you go into multiple dimensions till you reach a dimension that helps you to plan your next birth. We call it the spirit world or the fifth dimension, and there you plan your next life. So these are the souls that go into the light. Then there are souls who choose not to go into the light. Those become either ghosts or disembodied beings. So there's a classification there as well. Sometimes souls get so weak in the moments of death that they become what we call soul fragments, which means that their soul disintegrates. Imagine a piece of paper that is torn into very small pieces. A piece in itself doesn't have enough energy to regenerate or to be born as a soul once again. So that's a very rare case. For example, the Nirbhaya case. She suffered so much that her entire soul was not liberated and could have chosen light or darkness. The soul just disintegrates at that point in time under extreme pressure and trauma that the person faces at the time of death. So those pieces also remain in the universe as soul fragments. So this is one part of it. And then there are, of course, souls that don't choose to go into the light because they either want revenge or they are too attached, or there could be various other reasons.
You know, I want to know about some famous souls who've passed and who perhaps are in between. I don't know. Where do you think Mr. Ratan Tata is right now?
He has passed over.
He's gone towards the light?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's gone towards the light. But the souls that have not gone into the light, Princess Diana,
Okay.
Divya Bharti, Sri Devi, Sushant Singh Rajput, they are the souls that are still hanging between life and death.
Have any of these souls come to you?
They have.
And what have they told you?
I still continue to receive threatening emails on my official mail ID. So it's not as simple as just saying it because they said it. It impacts a lot of people, right? But I would only say that what people are speculating is absolutely bang on. And that is the truth. The
About
truth has
Princess
been
Diana?
masked. About all of them. The truth has been masked.
You're saying all of them have died under fishy circumstances, and that is the
Absolutely.
truth.
That is the truth. And there is foul play. And I would add to that saying that all the politicians who die, all the people who are in power and they die a sudden death, Tantra is behind them. Tantrics are behind them. These are not natural deaths. And whenever a death is not natural and is through a tantric, the soul gets trapped. You can do as many rituals and go to as many shrads and pindans and do whatever, the soul is trapped. Because for that soul to be taken, there are evil souls that were planted for that thing to happen.
So my question is, individuals who have an unnatural death, let's say an accident, suicide cases, or a very traumatic experience like Abhaya, the Calcutta rape case, Nirbhaya, you're saying that they don't move towards the light, they can't go towards liberation?
They can, unless they become a soul fragment. But many of them are so much in shock that at that point in time, they're not really aware what's happening or that they've been given a choice. Many of them stay back because of revenge. Do they have the potential to move forward? Yes, they do.
Okay.
Do they choose that? Sometimes not. They've been, killed or they've died under really pathetic circumstances. So, for example, I had a case where, many years ago when I was just exploring myself and my mediumship skills, and I was sitting in my room and reading a book, and the door was closed. And I suddenly saw someone standing next to my chair. It took me a minute to understand that the door is closed, which means that this must be a soul. And that person kept asking for help. He says, I know you, you're my sister's friend, and I've just had an accident. I said, where? He said, in Guwahati. I have just had an accident in Guwahati, and you are here, and there is no blood on you, which means you're a soul. It freaked me out completely. But it so happened that he had an accident. He died on the spot. And his soul was still hanging around there. And when the cops came and his family came, etc., he was trying to tell them that, listen, I'm here. Why are you not seeing me? Why are you not? So when that portal would have opened, instead of going to the portal, he came to me. You'll go to somebody for help, somebody who can see you and understand you, which is a medium. So sometimes souls don't understand what's happened. It's very sudden. They are not expecting it. And they don't realize that they've died. There's a lady who came to my office when I was still in my corporate world, about 2011. And again, the cabin was closed. And I see her. Now in an office of 500 people, you could assume that someone's just walked in. But she was wearing really, rural clothes. And she said, please, I really need your help. So I thought it must be some driver's wife, someone who's just walked in. I said, yes, tell me. No, my son is dying. And she spoke in Hindi. Mera beta mar raha hai. Aapko meri madad karni hogi. And she started pulling my hand. And I must tell you that it was a physical touch. Like how we see that the ghosts just, we feel that we are going to. It was a physical touch. So I said, okay, I'm coming. What is the problem? And after 30 seconds or a minute, I thought something is amiss. And she kept staring at one thing on my desk, and that was a calendar. And she kept staring at it. And I said, Aapko malum hai na kaun sa saal hai? And she was a soul from 1980s. She couldn't understand what is 2000. So her son was in the hospital and she was looking for help. She ran out of the hospital, got crushed by a lorry, and stayed trapped in that same reality.
Oh, in the 1980s.
In the 1980s. And whoever now she finds. Now, how do souls find people randomly? They don't. They come to know that you can hear them and see them. Because they've been trying with other people as well, and that's not happening. Nobody can see them. The moment they realize you can see them or hear them, and you understand, they'll reach out to you. And she just vanished. Because she could not connect with the reality of the fact that the world has moved on. Had she stayed there, I would have perhaps asked her, can we release you? Can we do something? Again, she made a choice, do you realize? She made a choice of not accepting that this is 2011. Gone again.
What is some of the most bizarre spirit encounter that you've had?
One of the most bizarre and real spirit encounters I had was, at one point in time, I used to meet a lot of people at one of the 5-star hotels in the coffee shop. So I had one girl who used to work with me. So she used to say, ma'am, I'll stand at the, gate of the coffee shop. And we had a list of people because it was by appointment. 10:15 so-and-so will come, 10:30 so-and-so will come. She said, 8 people will come today. I said, okay. So she said, when they come, I'll meet them. I'll tick off their name. Then they'll come to you. They'll have coffee with you. Then they'll come out and the next person, and simple arrangement, okay? So we started. And one person who came, Mrs. Sandhu. She came, she was about 60, very smart. She was wearing a sari and she was wearing goggles, and she came and sat. So I found it a little odd that, if you and I are sitting and I'm wearing goggles and it's inside, you would wonder, sometimes film stars do it, but otherwise people will remove it, right? So she came and she discussed, and she was very sad, and she said, I've come to discuss my case. I want to forgive my mother.
Okay.
I said, okay. I said, but this is not an actual session. Here I tell you what to do and then you come for the actual session on another day. It seemed like whatever I was saying, she was not really grasping that. She went on and on with her story that this is how I was in childhood. I have a daughter. She said in Punjabi that मेरे साथ गलत हुआ है and मेरे को पता है ये बात कि किसने करा है. लेकिन अब मैं भूलना चाहती हूँ. कोई बात नहीं, जो हो गया सो हो गया. So I thought she's just ranting. It went on and on. I said, आप कॉफ़ी ले लीजिए. She said, ठीक है. उस बंदे ने आके 2 कॉफ़ीज़ रखी. ठीक है. उसने भी कॉफ़ी पी, मैंने भी कॉफ़ी पी. एंड मेरे को थोड़ा अजीब सा लगा बिकॉज मैं जो कह रही थी वो सुनी नहीं रही थी. सो देन शी सेड, अच्छा ठीक है, थैंक यू, यू बीन ऑफ ग्रेट हेल्प एंड एवरीथिंग. शी हग्ड मी एंड शी वेंट. सो दिस गर्ल सेड, मैम फिर अच्छा रहा? आई सेड, हाँ अच्छा रहा. सो शी सेड, हाँ nice, okay, now how many do you think will come again? And we got to discussing that. And then she told me कि ma'am, Mrs. Sandhu didn't come. तो उनका फ़ोन है, she wants to come now, but now तो we have given the bill and we've come out, अभी क्या कर सकते हैं? I said, नहीं, Mrs. Sandhu तो came. So she says, no, ma'am, Mrs. Sandhu na, the one who had to come from Punjab na, She didn't come. So she's asking, can I come now? So I said, yes, she can come now. I told my driver, I said, Gadi roko. I said, let's go back. So we sat in the, lobby area. So Mrs. Sandhu came. So she said, ma'am, I'm so sorry. Please, aap meko ek baar dekh lo. I said, okay, your name is Mrs. Sandhu? She said, yes. I said, and what is your issue? She says, my mother's died in a car accident and I want to connect to her soul. I said, please show me your mother's picture. And she showed me her mother's picture. And that is the lady who came to me in the coffee shop. And I'm still getting goose flesh. My whole body is still in, just see. I said, are you serious? She says, yes. So I said, but this lady came. She said, ma'am, mazak mat karo. I'm not joking. I was completely frozen. So I went inside. I called that guy, the one who was serving us. I said, Bhaiya, aapne ye coffee di, kitni coffee di? He says, ma'am, the bill is okay. I said, no, the bill is okay. Do you remember this lady? I showed him the picture. He said, no. I said, no, the one who came, you gave the coffee for 2 people? He said, yes, I gave so many coffees. I said, yes, but this lady was there in plain sight. He said, no. I said, it's not possible. We went, we requested for the CCTV footage. In the CCTV footage, I'm sitting alone.
Oh my God.
There are 2 coffees. He has given 2 coffees. So I asked him, I said, who did you give the second coffee for? He said, I thought koi aayega. Aapne 2 coffee maangi, maine de di. That cup is not being lifted. In the entire footage, I'm talking to someone and there is no one there. And I'm getting up and hugging someone and there is no one there. So that lady had come to tell me to tell her daughter that I have forgiven and I'm going to move on. And why she had the sunglasses? Because when she smashed her head in this thing, her brakes were made to fail. And that was for a property case. And that was done by her side of the family. So when she did this, unki aankhein bilkul nikal gayi thi. Sometimes souls come in the form that they pass over. She's wearing sunglasses. It took me an hour to recover from that. And I told her, I said, it's happened. She's gone into the light. It's fine. Thank you so much. So that is one bizarre case where we really encountered that. And one case was where I saw a being. It had different parts of its body attached in different parts. It had 1 leg on top, 1 hand. And the parts were not of the same being. Like the leg was very dark, looked like someone, from another country or from another state. There was no face. 1 arm was of a small child. It was like pieces of other people have been put together. That is the day I asked my guys, what is this? So they said, this is a disincarnate being. Remember I spoke about soul fragments? How a soul that part of the soul cannot ever come back again. So sometimes different fragments come together to make a being actually. A lot of people see odd shaped beings.
I often, in my understanding, when someone departs and the soul leaves the body, there's no sense of time and space. Time exists because there is space, space exists because there is time. If someone is getting disembodied and there's no sense of time and space, they should also not have a form.
No. So the soul doesn't have a form. The soul is existing at the level of waves and light energy. So it's in the 5th dimension being. So actually our soul doesn't have a form. The body has a form.
Yes.
Right? But when we have to visualize something, you will not visualize it as a wave. Why do we have pictures of Krishna and Shiva? Because we can, in our 3rd dimensional mind, we can only visualize something that is 3rd dimensional. So when I teach mediumship and they see souls, they see them in the form that they existed. Souls have enough power to exist in the same form as the body is. And our minds are tuned to see them. Also, you would see some orbs. You've seen orbs of light. So for example, I'll show you a lot of pictures where, for example, when I do sadhana and somebody takes a picture, there are orbs of light, which are my spirit guides. So they are orbs, they are not a form. Okay? Sometimes you'll just see a wave over me or over anybody else for that matter. We had gone to Rishikesh to a resort near Neelkant. I had taken a whole conference there. I'm not joking, all the pictures, and we had gone in different cars. All the pictures that were taken at various spots, reaching Neelkant, there's a forest over there which I call the witch forest. Everything is like something's wrong with the camera has got water in it or something. Different phones were used, different people were used, different spots were used. But we are all looking like we are in waves. So they are portals. They are land portals where everything just exists as energy. Look at Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, what's the story?
It's a portal.
Okay, so you mean to say a lot
Portals
of
are,
people...
yes.
Oh. Then why
There's
do...
this
Oh, that's why the ships
series.
disappear and all.
Yes. The planes that disappear, that Malaysian Airlines plane. So what happens is that things go into space through these portals. And that's the whole scene of time travel also. And mirrors are portals.
Okay, what happens in a mirror, through a mirror?
You can actually go into different parallel universes. So spirits come through mirrors. That's why they say don't keep a mirror in your bedroom. In reality, if someone has to protect themselves, stop using mirrors in your house.
Oh.
Yes. Mirrors are portals, and TV screens today, it's like a mirror. So TV screens are also portals. So spirits can easily come in and go out. Remember, ancient times there were no mirrors?
Yes.
People used to see their reflection in water. So water bodies are also portals.
That's why you have spirits hovering
Yes.
around water bodies. Okay.
Everything gets connected.
Yeah.
So we used to have wooden houses or houses of mud on which we used to paste cow dung cakes for protection because cows are sacred and they're the form of Lakshmi. And baked cow dung cakes are actually sacred. There were no mirrors.
These days, even a marble flooring is like a mirror.
Yes. The chrome phones that we use.
Yeah.
The covers that we use. They are all portals. You are carrying portals. Your house is a portal. Everything's a portal. And then you're blaming spirits. You're keeping your house open for spirits. And then they are saying, oh my God, they're evil. But they're saying you've invited us.
You know, it is estimated that 25 to 30 million Ouija boards were sold globally in the 20th century by the Parker brothers. Of course, it was later acquired. Can one engage into something like this?
There's another movie that is coming. So they were, they were a couple who were a paranormal investigator, Ed and Warren.
Yeah. Annabelle is based on that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Lauren. So they have investigated many such cases. Please understand that a planchette, a Ouija board, these are things that are not to be used. Why? Because we don't know how to deal with spirits. Young children use them.
Yes.
And then they don't go away. Then what are you going to do?
They're being sold as games.
Yes. And that is the tool of the darkness, that they are just luring people into this.
But they really work.
They work.
But what if I don't know the technique of going about a Ouija
Oh
board?
my God, the spirits are just ready to come to you. You don't even need it. You sit here and you say certain words. I don't want to say it, they'll all come rushing in. And you just call out to them and say that, I want to know your presence, I want to see you, I want to feel you. These things will start moving. They'll all start playing these instruments. Oh. That's how ready they are, and that's how many they are. So definitely no, anyone who's hearing the podcast, please no. This is not a world you want to just put your hand in because you may not ever be able to come out of it.
So if I want to speak to my dead grandmother, I shouldn't be sitting here and invoking her. Rather, I should be coming to a medium?
Medium. There's a scientific way of doing it. And all the people with who black magic or tantra or calling spirits has gone wrong have ended up into places like Mehandipur, Balaji. Nahi theek hue na wo log. Despite everything, they are still haunted. They are still possessed.
Please tell me about the phenomena in Mehandipur, Balaji, people exhibiting unusual behavior. What exactly is this?
These are possessed people. Partially possessed, fully possessed.
Science would say that this could be dissociative personality disorder, multiple personality disorder.
Science will always say that. See, everything in this world is not science and everything in this world is not art. One cannot remain without the other. There are two sides of the same coin. But science is not able to explain prana, is it? What is chi? What is prana? They just say, oh, it's something that's coming from source energy, describe source energy. It's just not the sun, right? So there are a lot of things that science cannot put its fingers on, and we know that. People who are possessed, explain to me how a 64 kg person or even a 47 kg person, like I saw when I went to Balaji, can pick up a rock of 200 kgs and keep standing in that position. How is it explained? It's not. How does science explain the presence of shadows in your pictures? There was a case of a person who went to Balaji with his friends. It's actually someone known to me. And on the way back, so they say you should not eat or drink anything there, you should not carry prasad. So now even they say that please don't even offer prasad. Because when you offer prasad, you expect that some of it will be given back to you. So when you go and stand in that line, I went 3 years ago.
This is just Mehandipur, Balaji, right?
Yeah, we're only talking of Mehandipur, Balaji. So the lady over there, the guard would say that don't offer any prasad, please. Just come, join your hands, do the darshan and go. So this, this person who's known to me, he went with his friends and they didn't know. This was 4 years ago. I went 3 years ago. They got a prasad back. Now with the prasad, what comes with you? Entities. You go there to leave things. You don't pick up anything from there and come. Okay? And that's why they say that when you have to go there, you just go in one go and you come back in one go. You don't stop, you don't start eating something, nothing. And before going there for a couple of days, you don't eat onion, garlic, etc. And after coming back also, for a week, you don't eat onion, garlic because it's considered to be tamasic. And therefore, the spirits that may have traveled with you, use that as a hook. Okay. So this person went, they carried the prasad back. Now with it, they carried this. Their car on the way back in the middle of the day met with an accident. On an empty stretch of road, they rammed into the divider. Empty stretch of road. The driver says, and driver was 4 friends driving in the car. The driver says, I saw a huge lorry coming towards me. There is no lorry either this side or this side. He also can't see it. And we are not talking of people who were drunk. We are not talking of the night time. He says, I just didn't know where to go, so I swerved in. So this boy, he called his father. And he said, we've just met with an accident. We'll see what to do. Otherwise, we'll stay here for the night. And he took a picture of that car. Some people have a habit of taking pictures of everything that's happening. And he sent that picture to his father. His father saw that picture. And he said, forget anything, run. Run like your life depended on it. Leave everything. Forget the car. Forget it. Don't even walk. Don't look for a hitch. Run. And he said, when I came back home, my father showed me the picture. And the picture had 3 dark figures picking up the car like this. So they had picked it up and thrown it. So that's how it is. We don't have to carry anything back. So there is something called the Pretarti. And they say that when the Pretarti happens, when you go to Mehandipur and let's say you're going with somebody who's possessed, they ask, at least I tell people to stay there for 7 days. The Pretarti happens at 2 p.m.
Okay.
When the Pretarti happens and the possessed person is a little far, they will jump over people, over things. They will have supernatural powers. Can you jump over me in a normal situation? You can't. Even if you came running, I don't think we all know high jump. You can't. But this person will jump over people, jump over railings because he's been summoned. I have seen this happen. I've actually seen this happen. And people are shouting and, trying to crouch. And he would just jump the lines. And go and be summoned there and say, Hazir hai. They are summoned. Science cannot explain that.
Like, can you sense something right now in this podcast room? Can you sense any presence or ghost?
I can sense presence, but when I was coming up the stairs, I met 2 of them.
Really?
Yes. So we both just looked away and we just said, okay, we both means they both and me. So, and they were not connected to each other.
And why were they here?
Wandering and roaming souls. Didn't check.
Okay.
Because when you check, then they'll tell the whole story. Like, for example, if you catch somebody there and say, why are you here? He will tell you something, no? It'll take time. And they are desperate for connect.
What about in this room? Do you sense something?
Yeah, there are about 3.
Oh, wow.
There are about 3. Yesterday, the podcast that I was recording, after 30 minutes, that guy said, there's no sound, ma'am. No. I said, after 30 minutes, you're telling me this, ma'am, what to do? There just isn't. But they are lost. They are not looking at us or planning or plotting something. They're just around.
Okay.
They're just around.
Freaky, okay.
So it's Hollywood and Bollywood that has made us believe that they have an agenda and they're after our lives and they're just lost.
Okay. What are some of the signs that these spirits could give you to, make their presence felt? Like we've heard things like animals howling, dog barking, temperature drop. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah? What are some of those signs?
The first sign is electrical interference. So like I said, I was recording a podcast and it didn't get recorded only. My first podcast has me saying the same story 3 times, after which I said, listen, I don't think. The whole podcast is being recorded. Every time I start the story at a certain point, after that it was not getting recorded. So I told the anchor, I said, it's not happening. He says, no ma'am, we have to tell people. I said, okay, please tell. So finally when we told, the 4th time it got recorded. So electrical interference, sound interference, chills, yes. Goose flesh, you would feel intense emotions. What do you think happened at the Taj Mahal, Bombay? And I've worked with the Taj, so I have the highest regard. But what happened to all those souls? That intense fear that people felt at that point in time, do you think it would have gone from there? No, it just rotates, it goes into the walls. That's why they made, a lot of the hotel was recreated. But go to Khuni Darwaza, go to these places, you'll come to know. Go to Humayun's tomb, you'll come to know what I'm talking about. So there are those whole elements of fear. So when you go there, you just start feeling what they were feeling. You start feeling trapped, you start feeling angry. There's a case that came to me of Manikarnika Ghat. So a lady, she's a Bengali, she said, She came to me and she says, I can't sleep. And there's something that keeps thumping from under the bed. It was an online session. I said, where did you get this from? I sense a really bad spirit. So she said, I don't know. And she won't tell. It took me half an hour to ask her, okay, where all have you traveled? And she forgot telling me that she went to the Manikarnika Ghat. After half an hour, she says, oh, now I remember. I also went there with my friend. But ma'am, everyone goes there. Videos are shot there. Yeah, but see, the night you went on the night of Ashtami. And who was being burnt? See, every circumstance has to come together, Shloka. An environment has to be created. The planetary positions matter. How you are matters. Why did they say in the earlier times that we should just not travel like that? People used to prepare for travel. Now we just say, oh, we booked a ticket, pick up the bag and go. No, you have to close your chakras, you have to protect your aura, you have to carry your protection tools. You just cannot travel. So she picked up that entity from there and that entity won't leave her. That entity was of a guy whose body was being burnt, and as it was half burnt, she kept staring at it. So our eyes are portals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So she kept looking at that, and that thing came with her.
And she got possessed?
And she got possessed. So sometimes it would leave her, sometimes it would have sex with her, because he thought that this is my wife. He's taken it to be that she's my wife. Okay, because he died, and the whole thing of that my wife has died, now there's no point in living life. And he took her. And that woman is not married. She's going to get married. And it took me ages to convince that guy that this is not your wife. So he says, should I come to you? I said, no, you can't. But this is not your wife. So he says, why did she come? Who comes? He says, would you come to an unknown person's funeral? I said, she didn't come for your funeral. She happened to be there. It took me 21 to 28 days. You can't just remove a spirit through mantras. You need to make the spirit also understand. And with their cooperation, it doesn't take a long time. But sometimes when they don't, then we use other methods.
Do all individuals who die become disembodied beings or spirits?
No.
No.
They go into the light and they move on.
Okay.
90% move on. 10% sort of stay. But what's happening is the mortality rate is also very high and the population is also very much. So it's a ratio of 1 is to almost 9 now. So one living being has 9 souls behind him who are disembodied beings. So if there are 100 people who are alive, there are 900 disincarnate or pret yoni or different yoni souls that are hanging around, not knowing what to do. And therefore, the tantrics have become far more powerful and they have far more feed of things that they can use because these souls are tools for them. If they are able to lure them in the right way, these are their tools. So Tantra is actually the right way of doing things. And it was something that was gifted to Ma by Shiva. But now what people are doing in the name of Tantra, which is the not so good tantrics, they are running sponsored ads on Google to say if you're not getting married with so-and-so, come to us. And what do? They send one of these disincarnate beings, tell them that if you do this, we will release you into the light. So those souls go after whatever task they are given, they figure it out and they come back and the tantrics say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, this is not exactly true. You need to do a little bit more. Why do you think tantrics die so quickly? And why must they pass on their craft in time?
Okay.
Because they know they don't have a very long time, but that's what's happening, unfortunately.
What kind of forms do these disembodied beings or spirits take?
There are many yonis, like there is a pret yoni, there could be, soul fragments coming together. So I'll give you an example. One of the creepiest things that I saw is when I was going towards Meerut. And I was in the car with 3 other friends. And we were going through what I call a ghost town because we were misled by, there's nothing called misled, but led into that graveyard-like place.
Which is this ghost town?
I can't name it.
Okay,
We'll have people going there and figuring it out. So what happened was, Google always tries to show you the shortest way. And another myth was that ghosts only are seen at night. And this is a story right early morning at 7:30. We were going and there was a lot of fog. And I was the one in charge of maps, so I kept saying, go here, go here, go here. Suddenly, we felt that the entire fog has come into the car. And the friend who was driving, she said, I can't really see. Of course, there was fog outside. But we started feeling really cold inside, very suddenly. And I said, I'm not feeling good. She said, and she started doing this at 7:30 in the morning. She said, I can't see. I'm not feeling well. So even to get her off the wheel and one of us to walk out, I just told them, I said, don't get out. That's what it wants. That's what it wants. So we just kept telling her, I said, have some water, get up, you can do it, you can do it. It took us 30 minutes to cover a distance of less than a kilometer. And later on, we came to know that there was a graveyard on the side. And what the spirits wanted us to do was to come out of the car, change seats or doing whatever, or to have an accident. Now, let me logically tell you why this happens. A lot of people say, near these places, there are accident spots. What happens in an accident? Whenever there's an accident and someone dies, or any which way someone dies, there's a portal, the same portal that opens up for that person. So the entities around that person, they try to come to suicide points, etc., so that when the portal opens, they can also go. They miss their chance.
So if the portal opens for any one of the people
Anyone
involved
yes.
in the
And
accident?
that is why you have more ghosts and all of these in hospitals. Why? Because someone's going to die. There are far more entities in hospitals than in crematoriums.
Really?
Because crematoriums has dead bodies, people have already passed over. So coming back to how many types are there are lots. There are disembodied beings, there are prets, there is jinn, there is bhoot, there is pishach, there is churel, there is lots of them depending on, who they are. So there's a whole classification. That depends upon, one, what powers they have after death. Two, on the land that they are attached to. The land has a lot of value, Shloka. So, for example, UK is the world's largest and strongest hub for paranormal activities, followed by India. So that's how potent the land is, and that's how fierce the people are, and that's how much revenge people want. It's not it's all right, live a mediocre life, it's okay if it happens, it's okay if it doesn't. No. These are people who want something with so much of intensity that they're not willing to let go. They're willing to let go of their bodies, but not of their desires. They don't even want to walk into the light.
Why do you think that is? Is it because it's a very competitive nation?
Could be. See, the northern part of India has always been invaded. So
Yes.
there's always a warrior-like thing already.
Correct.
I want it. And now with this whole, technology being the way it is, everyone now feels entitled.
Yes.
Which is also the basis of Vashikaran now. Because I want it. If I want to marry this girl, I want to marry this girl. How could she get married to someone else? We used to see those very obsession-based movies.
Yeah.
But they were not
Kaka
far and
Kaka
few
Kiran,
between.
yeah.
But now if you see people,
Yeah.
see corporates, see people not wanting to work or work only on their own terms. So all of this just tells you that people have become a little strangely deluded and hugely entitled. Everyone wants it on their own terms. So how can death? What people don't understand is death is the only thing you cannot control. They want to control it even after that. So they say, oh, fine, you've decided we'll die. Okay, we'll show you, we'll not die. We'll continue to live on. So God says, okay, live on. And some of them, then you will not believe it. I don't think it's ever been spoken about. That spirits also do tantra after death. So they do a lot of rituals on Amavasya. How do spirits get more and more powerful? You must have seen in Hindi movies that they say, ye bahut powerful atma hai. How? When they were alive, they weren't so powerful. Then how is their power increasing with every year that passes by? Because every year offers opportunities like the Chaudas, Diwali nights. There are portals that open up in every year, portals of darkness.
And what times of the year are these?
There are some sacred times and some hidden times. One of the common times that we all know, one is the night of Holi, one is the night of Diwali. So not only the living people, but spirits also are getting more and more powerful on these nights. They are also doing tantra. They are also doing dark practices. And then there are people like tantrics who tell them that, okay, if you do this for us, we'll make you more powerful through this ritual. You don't have hands and feet, we'll do the ritual for you. We'll give the blood for you. We will kill a baby for you. We'll give you the animal sacrifice. What do you need? How are babies, animals, how do they mysteriously disappear on these nights? Human sacrifice, animal sacrifice, blood. This entire thing makes these spirits more powerful. There's a way of doing it. This is a science.
Okay.
So when they become more powerful, they are able to perform more heinous acts in the name of revenge. I had a case that came in of a person in Rajasthan who in his past life was a royal person. And he was supposed to get married to a royal princess. And he realized a little later into the day that he doesn't really want to get married to that girl. It was not because of a third person's involvement on either side. He just didn't want to, or he wanted to postpone it or whatever. And she looked at it as a rejection. So she jumped from the walls of the fort. Now she doesn't let anybody get married because she felt rejected. So it's a generic mass revenge. If I couldn't get married, you. So that's how it works. That's how it
So that would be dependent on my tendencies. If I'm not of those tendencies, I may not be vengeful, right?
Of course. And those are the 90% people who go into the lights.
Okay. So is that how you distinguish between an evil spirit and a good spirit? Like maybe someone who's more vengeful. If I got killed, then I would be vengeful, and maybe after my death, I would want to go after that person?
Could be.
Okay.
But 90% of the people are fine.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do that. They just want to explore another life. See, please understand, killing is a contract. It's a soul contract. It's not something that's happening by chance.
Okay.
And I'm going to say something that people are going to have questions about. Many things that happen for raising the human consciousness, the universal consciousness. For example, when AIDS happened, it came for a period of time. It lifted the whole thing into unconditional love at a societal level. When Nirbhaya happened, right? Or when other such things happen. These souls have taken it upon themselves to raise the consciousness of the planet by going through something so heinous that shakes the society out of its slumber.
Jesus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Autism. What does autism say? What do autistic children say? They are actually angels. They are angels who have come here on earth to have these painful realities so that people can understand unconditional love. That love is not conditional. We were not getting it. We are still not getting it. But ask people who have special needs children, or ask people who have these angels born in their houses. They will request you and implore you not to judge others.
Even animals?
Absolutely.
Pets?
Pets, people who are into drugs, people who are into any mental condition. Ask their families and caregivers what happens. So the society has to eventually become a non-judgmental society. We have to go back to what we were, what we call the Satyuga, or what we call the time of the Atlantis. At a point in time where, the society operated where the upper chakras were opened. So all this gluttony, greed, lust, anger, shame, pride, fear, which are our lower chakras, we were not operating from that. So there was no need to be competitive. There was no need. Resources were aplenty.
Correct.
So we are talking of those times. When will it happen? It's not going to happen when a avatar comes in and magically says, now it is so. It'll happen when you and me and people who are watching this podcast are going to create a shift in their minds, in their attitudes, in their behaviors. When people are going to become more compassionate. But for that, we have to first become compassionate towards ourselves. So we are talking of ghosts and entities, but please understand they need our compassion. Not our, ire, or not our speculation, or not our fear. Fear feeds them.
Okay.
So this latest movie that you would have seen, Bhool Bhulaiya 3, what happens in that? In the end, that whole curse gets broken just through forgiveness. They seek forgiveness and the soul just crumbles away. That's what it was looking for, because forgiveness leads to love. Love is the only answer in the end.
You're a psychic medium. How does this exactly work?
I don't.
No?
I don't attract spirits and ghosts. So a psychic is somebody whose intuition is very sharp.
Okay.
So when I discovered that I was a psychic, first of all, I didn't know the word psychic existed because I was in the corporate world for 20 years. But when I went to a doctor and I told him something's off and I'm just getting these, visions and all of that, please run a test on me. He was a very wise guy. So he says, maybe something else is happening. I said, like what? He says, like, maybe you know what's written over here.
So what was happening? What were the kind of visions that you were getting?
I was getting visions that my friend's house is going to catch fire in the next 3 days. Time was also specified. Now, how do you go and tell somebody, aapke ghar mein aag lagne wali hai? So you wouldn't, right? You would just shut up and wonder what's happening, right?
So you could foresee the future.
I could foresee the future. So he had a report lying on his table. He said, maybe you can tell me what is inside of it. And both of us started laughing. Of course. And then suddenly in my mind, like how they type in a typewriter and you watch it on a movie, like on a screen, I said, this is a liver report. And whoever's liver report this is, has a fatty liver. And he says, yes, and pigs will fly. I said, yes. And he opened the report and it was a liver report. And it was a fatty liver. I just didn't know whose report it is. And it freaked me out completely. So I see it in my mind's eye. Earlier I sometimes also see it like a friend's mother came to my house. I was treating her. She was a cancer patient. and she passed over. I didn't come to know.
Okay.
I mean, of course. And I went into my bedroom at night and she was standing there.
Mother.
The mother. And I was like, what? Why are you here? Because I didn't know she's no more. I said, how come you're here? She said, listen, I have to talk to you about something urgent. I said, listen, come to my office. Don't do this. And it struck me. She said, yes. I said, you've passed over? And then I got scared to even, sort of sleep in my room. Then I asked my guides, I said, please shut this. If I need to see a soul, likely, please show me like a silhouette. I can't just be seeing people and not realizing whether it's a soul and wondering if it is one. And that's how I shut my third eye, from the perspective of literally looking at them. But it got opened again because I teach this work. So there's a friend of mine who's a journalist, as practical as it can be. A journalist is a black and white person. That also a crime journalist. You're either murdered or you're not. There's no in between.
Sure.
I was teaching it and, she said, ma'am, I said, just go and see. Is the loo crowded? Should we go now? Should we go later? She said, ma'am, too many people. I said, okay. After some time, I said, go and check now. She said, ma'am, too many people, but let's go. When we went, there were too many people. 3 of us went. There were too many people. Said, khade hona padega, wait karna padega. Why? After some time, we realized some of the people are not moving. So they were not people, they were souls. I just looked at them, I said, I've done a good job. Now they can also see souls. So sometimes you don't come to know if it's a soul or it's a human being. So seeing is one way. You come to know. Many times, things will just pass you by. And that's an angry soul. The one that will just come brush you and go. So now we know what to do. We'll just open our hands and send them, certain symbols. And some of them will again come back softly and touch you, which means they have received it. And sometimes they won't come back, which means, again, they have chosen not to receive it.
Don't they inflict any kind of harm on you, let's say if it's an evil soul, no?
No, Shlloka, there are very less evil souls in the world.
Okay.
We are talking of people who are trapped. It's really sad to see them trapped, actually. They are trapped and they're also very confused. They don't know because they know that we are living in a world. They know that they have lived in this world. But now they can't do anything about it. So they are a little lost, confused, trapped. Therefore, as part of our practices, what mediums do is that they clear these souls, if not every day, then every week. There's a sacred ceremony that we do in our own homes or offices, wherever we are sitting and doing. We do it as a group on every Amavasya and every Purnima. The souls are far more powerful and agitated on those days. That's why you have more of these incidents on these days. Because moon has a large effect. No? So moon, either a new moon or full moon.
Okay.
So as a psychic medium, life is very interesting. Sometimes you see people and sometimes you see people and spirits. So you'll have to keep your chakras and channels really closed. Otherwise, you'll go nuts.
Yeah. How do I protect myself from such tantrics who are after, let's say, my soul?
First of all, never visit somebody to harm somebody else. That's one. Secondly, always keep your energy space very protected by doing basic chakra exercises. People teach people how to open chakras. I teach people in my psychic protection course how to close chakras. An open chakra is a hook. See, if you have to hang a coat, there has to be a hook, no? What is the hook? I keep asking people, what is a hook inside of you? Revenge is a hook. Greed is a hook. Envy is a hook. So we have to clean ourselves from inside. The totkas do not work. Let me tell you this clearly. Instagram today is full of totkas. Blow the cinnamon, do this. Well, people have been blowing it for 3 years, 4 years. They still have spirit sightings. They're still not gotten rich. So what do these totkas do? They just make you feel happy that you're doing something. Protection happens with crystals. Black tourmaline is a great crystal. Wear it if you feel that you could be. If you are a sadhak of the 10 Mahavidyas, only if you are a sadhak of the 10 Mahavidyas, carry a Baglamukhi yantra or carry a Kali yantra. That has been given by somebody who has charged these. But of course, they have a set of rules to be kept in a certain way. But I know of people who know that spirits are after them. They must start chanting the Kali mantra, go into the Diksha of Ma Kali and keep a Kali yantra in their wallet or in their bag in a proper way. Then you can't have other stupid things in your bag. You have to keep it properly. A Panchmukhi Hanuman with great understanding of what it entails should be in your puja room in a proper way. And then, of course, you cannot be having non-veg in your house. There are certain niyamas for everything. The way You know what? People think, oh, it's available on Amazon. Let me just get it, put it there. Now I'm protected. No. Everything is an energy form. When it comes in, you have to shift your energy to align with that energy. And there are some rules around that. So but as a layman, I think do that. Get your astrology chart read if your moon is weak. There are a lot of combinations, somebody will tell you that. At that point in time, please be careful during the time of, for example, Ketu, during the time of Rahu. Is Rahu sitting with Shani, right? Is the moon afflicted by Rahu? These are people who would see these things more, who would feel these things more, who would be softer targets for these spirits. If your sun is very strong, if your Jupiter is very strong, then you have a natural immunity in your chart. Don't go into superstition. But if it is not, take measured steps. Do your sadhana every day.
Even yoga, meditation help?
110% it helps. It grounds you. What does yoga do? Yoga activates the Ketu in you. It's the Ketu energy as opposed to the Rahu energy, which is like the head. So get that done. I think everybody should spend 30 minutes at least chanting every day. You could chant the mantras of your Ishtadev. If people feel scared, they should either do the Hanuman Kavach or the Durga Kavach. That is immensely helpful. But imagine someone doing the Durga Kavach, going for the Kumbh to have a snan and then going to a tantric and saying, my child is not cracking this exam and my sister-in-law's child has cracked this exam, so please do something that, he also doesn't crack. What is the point? So I think that protection starts, like for example, look at me. I'm not wearing anything, no crystal, no rudraksh, nothing.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm protected. Because my practices protect me. I have the grace of God. And to maintain the grace of God, you have to work very hard and tirelessly. And don't be in fear. Fear attracts fear. It's a law of attraction.
Yeah.
No one's there to harm you. If you feel that there is somebody, then get your astrology chart done once. Get soul astrology done, which is different than regular astrology. And you'll know.
You've also helped the police nab missing people. How did you make that happen?
It was in my nascent stage of discovering that I'm a psychic. Just to test myself, one of my friends in the US told me that there are a lot of cold cases that they put on social media and thousands of people try that. So why don't you try that? I said, yeah, good idea. At least I'll get out of it. I'll know that I'm not a psychic. I remember there was a girl who was kidnapped in the US and a lot of people had written, she's here, she's here. And in a way that my guides had taught me, which is now what I call automatic writing. At that time, I didn't know. I also wrote down an address and I put it there, feeling that I'm safe because there are so many thousands of comments, it's never going to happen. And I got a call from an international police investigation company 3 days later saying that, how do you know? And I got so scared.
Yeah.
I said, listen, I've never traveled to that country. I don't know. My friend told me. He says, no, but how do you know? I said, I don't know. I closed my eyes. I told him the whole process. And they said, we found the body. She's no longer alive, but we found the body. And out of everybody's, yours was right. And that is, I still remember I was standing outside a beauty parlor, just waiting to go in for my appointment. I exactly remember I was in Gurgaon and I got this call.
And what exactly did you envision?
So first I envisioned the address. It doesn't come like, in a proper way we write it, Noida, pin code, so-and-so, not like that. Yeah. You'll get words. So they were not a complete address. They were words that I gave them of various, one word was so-and-so street, and there was a state name. And then I kept saying that there's a building in the basement of that building. So I gave them all of that. So it was not a channeled address as such. With all of that, they went there and they could figure it out. So after that, they started telling me that this is the state this crime has happened in. Can you find out if the person is dead or alive? By then, I had become a little sharper to ask the right questions. So sometimes I would say not alive. Sometimes I would say alive, but by the time they reach. So my success rate with them was 6 cases were right out of 10.
Okay.
But I thought it's good enough. Let's see what happens. That's how it started. So yes, I stopped that work because it was very painful. You have to go through, at least I had to go through a lot of feelings that the victim went through. Like you're being dragged and you're being gagged. And so I would just feel very choked and, it took a toll. It took me 3-4 days to recover. So I realized it's not worth putting my body and mind through it to look for someone. By the way, every psychic who works on these kind of cases has to go through this. It's a very difficult thing to do. So I've stopped now doing missing people because of that.
Okay.
Because people could be missing under really bad circumstances as well.
As a child, I remember watching the movie Papi Gudiya with Karishma Kapoor, and then of course you have Annabelle, where we've seen that the spirits use dolls as mediums to enter. Is that true? And are there some such
Anything
objects?
can be used as a medium.
Okay.
Pardon me, I don't watch
Okay.
horror movies.
Okay.
I'm scared of
Sure.
horror movies.
Really?
I'm really scared of horror movies. I feel
So
very
ironical.
scared. Yes, I'm not scared of entities, but I'm very scared of horror movies because they have that whole sound and
Yeah.
you can make anything a medium. You can make a doll a medium. Doll is the easiest and the smallest and the most compact form of a human body, you know. So you do your voodoo on that, etc. Because you can put pins on a human body. Where will you create such a large prototype otherwise? So a doll is the closest that comes to a human body. So you could do any of that.
I want to talk about death rituals. The Garud Puran very extensively talks about circumstances in which you can have spirits or disembodied beings on the virtue of improper funeral rites. So, what is the significance of funeral rites and death rituals?
According to spirituality, funeral rites and death rituals are important because they mark a completion. And whenever we have to let go of somebody or something from our house, there needs to be a ceremony for the body and the mind to believe that it no longer exists. From a spiritual perspective, to gain acceptance. So, for example, the 13-day period, we can't let go of somebody just very quickly. Even if the person dies in an instant, our lifestyle, our family, our habits, our dependence takes time for it to sort of melt. So the rituals and the grief over a period of time is for people to accept A, that it has happened, B, from a perspective of knowing now how to live without them. So it's a period of adjustment from one way of the life to the second way. Now,
Psychologically.
Psychologically, physically, suppose somebody, a young mother dies. Now their children and the husband has to figure out how to even physically live without her. Some of the things that she was doing, how do we do them now? So this is from the perspective of the people who are left behind. Now from the perspective of the soul, just like for people, it's not very easy to leave and there is no switch. Similarly, the soul sort of hangs around for 13 days. And that is why we say that, try to give away maximum of their very personally used things in those 13 days. Don't carry it forward. But because of
Don't
the
carry
attachment,
their personal belongings forward.
Yes.
It's for my grandmother's jewelry. I shouldn't be wearing my grandmother's jewelry.
So with jewelry, what we tell people is that because it's metal, it has even more energy and is even more potent. So for 1 year, you keep it in a locker. Let the energy get dispelled. Then there are certain processes like keeping it in the sun, etc. So when people pass over, they come to us for the death rituals and say that, okay, what should we do spiritually now? Like there's a lady whose mother wrote really beautiful poetry, but it was dark poetry. And she died by a suicide. So those poetry books would have been a huge portal for that soul. So we told them to keep it in the locker because it was also something that the children would have, like to preserve as culture. So you put it in a locker or a safe space for a year. Then once the energy goes away from it, then you sort of start using it.
I have one more question. What about the saris and the clothing?
Again, to be kept in storage for some time and then.
Okay.
Right? But the personally used things like cups, mugs, the last, utensils, towels, undergarments, sheets, even the pillow and the mattress, they should be given away in the first 13 days because that's where slippers, that's where a person comes back to very quickly. So our rituals do say that, give it away. Now what's happened is because we don't believe in them and people want to hang on to them. I've even seen people using other people's phones because we're so attached to them, now we'll use their phone. Phone is a portal. Easiest for the person to continue to influence you. And maybe you were in love with them and they were lovely people. But you don't want to live somebody else's life. So I think it's a lack of acceptance that causes us to not give away things. We are not even accepting it after someone's passed over, that they've passed over.
What about rituals such as, I think this used to be prevalent at one point, maybe still now in certain pockets, but I see a major part of the death rituals has been distorted due to modernization and urbanization. But such as tying of the toes or closing the orifices of the body, what is the significance?
Tying of the toes is to close the Mooladhara chakra. They say that life enters through the Mooladhara chakra, that's the basic chakra. And when they tie the toes, they tie your chakras and they say that this is it, now you may leave. They close all the orifices because there's a lot of putrefaction that happens of the gases that the body, gives. Many people say that the death happens, the through the mouth, the last breath. But that's not true. Death can happen from any orifice.
Okay.
So the soul could have left from anything. Why they close it is so that no other soul gets into it. Remember? The disincarnate souls who are looking for bodies. So they immediately close it that this body is not available. They start with tying the toes and then they close all the... Of course, scientifically you say that, there are gases and it can whatever. But from a spiritual perspective, this is the reason.
Okay. Any other ritual that you would lay more significance on during a death ritual?
Definitely light a diya for 13 days. 110% this is a must, because you're saying that please be the light, go into the light. Be the light. When the soul comes and says, oh, where I was, the diya is kept over there. And water is kept over there, So if the soul is thirsty, many people when they pass away in hospitals, they're really thirsty. They want water. They're on the ventilator. They can't ask for water. So keep water and keep that one diya burning. Akhand kar lo to aur bhi acha hai. So that can be done.
For the soul, which kind of death ritual would be better? Let's say burning the body vis-a-vis burying the body.
The soul is not dependent on a death ritual. It's the human beings who are.
Okay.
There is no good or bad for the soul. The soul has already moved on after death.
Okay.
We are talking of the 90% cases where people are going into the light. So the soul has moved on and it does not matter. But from a Vedic perspective, they say that, if you don't perform the death rituals well, then the next birth that they take, they have certain planets that are afflicted.
So things like, you have the Kala Bhairav Karma, Kala Bhairav Kriya, you have the Pindadan, you have the Shraddh. Are these important?
Extremely important.
But what if, people don't do it? Then what happens to the soul?
Nothing happens. That's what I want to tell you. That they are not important for the soul's liberation, as the texts say. But they are important from a perspective of its importance. Like, for example, I would say that the Shraddh ritual is more important because you want the blessing of the ancestors. But first, you have to recognize what patterns were they in, and can we, as their future generations, break that pattern. So I have a more logical bent of mind and a more spiritual bent of mind rather than a more religious bent of mind. But I do believe that every ritual is important to pacify a certain planet, to pacify a lineage, to pacify a certain sort of a vastu. Every deity must be. So if in your family there are some rituals that have been maintained, definitely do them. Again, not for the soul to be liberated or not be liberated. That's a choice the soul is making irrespective. But from a perspective of continuing the tradition and pacifying things and continuing a lineage. My question to people has always been, we all keep Navratri fasts, right? And Navratri is big in India. What about the US? What does the Mother Goddess do to the people who don't observe it? Who are eating chicken and meat on that day? Because they don't know. So it's fine. But if you know, if you have a ritual, you must carry it forward. But no point in being superstitious or being, in a question mark that should we, shouldn't we. If you have it, please do it.
Okay. And what's the connection between the Mahamrityunjay mantra and the spirits? Is there any connection?
If spirits and mantras have a connection, it is the mantras that are used to either send them to light or to try and capture them. So they will be the mantras of the 10 Mahavidyas.
Okay.
Because some mantras in that are for Sammohan, some are for Tantra, some are for liberation. So, from that perspective.
In different cultures, different clothing is worn when you're, let's say, mourning a death. In the Eastern cultures, in the Hindu culture, you wear white. In the Western culture, you wear black. Which is the correct color that must be worn?
I don't know what is the correct color, because everyone has their own reasons for the tradition. But what I believe is white is a much better color, because white doesn't absorb anything and it reflects everything back. So whether it's the grief, the emotions, the sentiments, or any disincarnate beings that are around you, it'll just not absorb it. That's the whole point of wearing white.
Okay.
People used to say that white is worn because you want to align to the universe. I say white has to be worn because it does not absorb anything. When you're there, there's so many sentiments, emotions. You don't pick that up.
Do you think wearing the color black attracts negative or dark energy?
In a scientific way, yes, because when we wear a dark color, our vibration matches the color that we are wearing. Black is a dark color, it's an intense color, and it is a color that absorbs everything. Now, suppose you're walking around, even on the street, or you've gone to a mall, you're absorbing the emotions of everyone around you. Therefore, the color tends to pull down your vibration. When your vibration is down, who are you going to attract? Other beings whose vibration is also down. Disincarnate beings, entities, ghosts, they have very, very low vibration. So whenever, through the usage of a color or food or drugs or alcohol or habits or anything dark, we pull our vibration down, we are available to them.
Okay.
That's how it scientifically works.
It is also said that ghosts and spirits hover around a tamarind tree or a peepal tree. Why is that the case?
Yeah, they usually say that, ghosts are around people trees, and I feel that they are looking for liberation. Because a tamarind tree and a people tree, we know, are the places where Lord Vishnu stays. The people tree, of course, has Lord Ma Lakshmi and Lord Vishnu. But a tamarind tree spiritually is seen as the bridge between both the worlds. And that is the reason why they say don't have a people and a tamarind tree in your premises. You should not have it. If you want to worship it, you go near a temple. It is seen as a bridge between both the worlds.
Is it a portal?
No, it's not a portal.
Okay.
But it is definitely places where spirits stay. I feel that they feel protected over there. You have, godly protection. That is why rituals done under a peepal tree, if they go wrong, can really attract spirits to you. So when they say with so much of ease, people ke ped ke niche diya jala dijiye, but what if a dog accidentally pisses on your diya? So when we do a ritual under a peepal tree, we should stand there till the ritual is over for it not to go wrong. I've seen so many rituals of the peepal tree go wrong.
Yeah?
It's not funny. I would say don't do it rather than, bear the effect of it not coming back. There must be an alternate to this totka, so please do that.
People also get married around a peepal tree, this manglik nuska that they do, that if you're a manglik.
Yeah, they tie a thread.
Isn't that scary?
They tie a thread to a tree.
Yeah.
According to me, if you're tying a thread to a tree and there is a jinn on that tree, the jinn is going to presume you're his wife.
Oh yeah, right.
That also happens. During marriage ceremonies, a lot of this happens, The bride will suddenly be somebody else the moment the fairas are over. So when they're tying the knot, and if there is a jinn there, or if the woman is thinking of something else, then that is very, very prevalent. It's happening more and more now.
They also say you must not eat anything in cremation grounds or during a funeral. Why is that the case?
Because you're opening your portals to that. No? You're opening your own chakras. The more closed and contained you remain. That's why they say don't talk too much. Wear very simple clothes and go. Even for Mehandipur Balaji, you're not allowed to wear any, spiritually allowed not to wear any jewelry. Metal attracts spirits.
Okay.
So if you want to wear, you wear a tulsi ka mala, or you wear a wood ka bead or something like that, or a rudraksh.
Okay. I read this report that there are 35 haunted places in India and 42 haunted places world over. Do you agree with this number? Do you think that there are several?
Oh, there are many more than thousands. And not so much known on social media, but a lot of them are known in the local folklore. You'll be surprised to know that a lot of Airbnbs now on the hills have been haunted houses once and now have just been converted as an opportunity. I said it in one of my earlier podcasts as well. This is not okay for you to just book it looking at it on the net. I've had cases where people's children have come back with ghosts saying, I'm Annie, and I stayed there. And, when we traced it after certain sessions, we realized that Annie was the child who died tragically in the house, which has now been converted into an Airbnb where this couple had taken its children in Himachal. So dear Annie came back with our 11th class student, So the child would switch between her and Annie. So be very careful. Go to a place and see. If you remember, in olden times, we used to go and visit a place before we used to decide we're going to stay there. With this advent of technology and these great looking pictures, we think, oh my God, how beautiful, how nice, how spacious. But nobody checks the energy. Similarly, when we have to get married, don't get just married like that. Check out the energy. When we say meet people, find out how your mindset is. No, also find out how the energy is. You'll have waves of anger coming from a person. I think reading energy should be included in the curriculum today in schools. What does a school look like? What's the energy of a place? Like, for example, I carry my own water. Everywhere that I go, I carry my own bottle. Why? Because the source you're drinking the water from, what is that source?
Portal.
No, it could be any source.
Okay.
No? It could be a building that is not in the best of its energetic self. So carry your own water. This is one of the biggest spiritual protections you can do. Carry your own water everywhere. Your water is charged. You exactly know the mantras you've put into it. You exactly know what has happened. Don't accept water from other places, for example.
Or from other people. In yoga, we say that.
Or even in other households. God knows what's happening in their house. And similarly, for them, your house is the same. God knows what's happening in your house.
But what if
from
you
their
go to
perspective.
someone's home and they've invited you to dinner and, things like that?
Carry your own bottle.
Okay.
Come on. In the COVID times, we carried everything on our own, right?
Food is not a problem, no?
Food is not so much a problem. But sweets is a problem. White sweets is a problem.
Okay.
So if people have called you, very good. Say your prayers before you're eating that food. But don't accept water. Water is money energy also. Right? So their money beliefs, their money fears, their loans, whatever, you're consuming that. Why? Why do you want to collude your own system?
And also memory, water has memory.
Totally.
72%.
So whatever they are saying,
Yeah.
whatever they've said, suppose water is lying on someone's dining table or the bottles are kept, now they are worrying about a certain situation, whatever, the water has absorbed everything.
Okay. What are some of the experience that you've had? Or in India, which place would you say is the most haunted?
What are the haunted places? I found Oxford to be extremely haunted when I went last year for my paper submission. I found Oxford to be haunted. So we were staying in the actual hostel, which is centuries old, and we were staying in the dorm. And each of us, because it's a small room, we all had single rooms. So I heard a lot of ruckus at night, people screaming, couples screaming at each other. Okay, people must be staying together and whatever. So after some time, I heard a knock and it was my friend. She says, they're really screaming and we have to get up in the morning. I said, yeah. So 3 of us just walked down to say, ki, please, dheere bolo. We could hear the voices. We couldn't see anybody. We went, we explored the grounds. There was a place, the sound was very prominent. There was nobody there. And it kept happening. It's not like it happened and it went away. It's very creepy. And I'll tell you what happens. When in a open ground, there are two spirits and they're talking to each other. There'll be a space around them that you cannot penetrate. Like you can't cross from this place to this place, although it's the same ground. You'll just feel like something's blocking you. You'll have to go around it. So that is the epicenter of the spirits. So those two people, it's very scary to go to a university and realize that it can happen here also. How we don't think it's going to happen in a college or a university or a school. So I found UK to be very haunted. I still find. Every time I land there, I feel it's very dense. It's very dense.
What is the story with the Bhangarh fort and is it true?
The story with the Bhangarh fort is a story of greed and lust. So there was a magician who was in love with the queen and he wanted to possess her no matter what. And he started sending her proposals to which she rejected. She told her husband and he got him executed. Not before this guy had done enough damage. He prepared these little oil bottles and sent them across and placed them in such ways that, in case something happens to them, they will spill and the whole thing will, sort of become haunted after that. So though they executed him, they were also not able to survive after that. And so it's just not the spirit of the magician. It's also the spirit of all the other people who died an untimely death. And yes, it is haunted.
Okay. And one must not visit that place?
I don't think we should visit haunted places because you're just playing with fire. One thing I would like to share on this podcast is that everything doesn't have to happen then. People have come after visiting haunted places and then they've had these mishaps after 3 months, 4 months, or something strange happened to their child. And it's funny that they're not even able to relate it to the fact that they went to a haunted place. And now I think one of the worst things to do is to make it a public spot. So now you have people throwing ice creams, stickers or cones or wrappers, and you have people doing idli dosa there. And when, normal human beings see other human beings roaming around and vendors there, suddenly we feel ye sab normal hai. Ye sab kuch nahi hai. But that's the worst thing that can happen. Those places have to be left alone because the black magic has penetrated their walls and actually even the ground.
Even people who explore a lot of these haunted places like the paranormal investigators, I think Gaurav Tiwari is a classic example, died under mysterious circumstances. There is some role of the black forces and the negative energy, right, in such people's deaths?
Definitely.
Okay. I have a ghost rapid fire for you. 3 things which make you the most vulnerable to a ghost.
Fear, sadness, and foolishness.
Okay. Things that protect you from a spirit. 3 things.
Durga Kavach, Kali Yantra, and Black Tourmaline.
If I want to ward off spirits in my home, what is that one tip that you can suggest?
Call people over again and again for dinner, lunch, call your children's friends home, have a lot of people coming and going there.
Okay. And why is that?
A lot of energy comes and goes when people come and go. Have pets. Keep pets.
Okay. You think pets are more elevated consciously than we are?
I don't know whether they're elevated more but they're elevated differently. So they're able to see the spirits very clearly.
Okay. Do ghosts come in our dreams?
Of course, dreams are a portal. Dreams are the biggest portal known to mankind. That's how sleep paralysis happens.
Okay. What is sleep paralysis, very quickly?
When you're in a very vulnerable state and you are not able to protect yourself and you've not slept with your chakras closed and your protective rituals in place, you are semi-possessed at that point in time, either to scare you or to freeze you or to have sex with you or many other things.
Okay. And that happens to how many of us? Is it very normal?
Close to 40% of the population has it.
Oh, okay. If I see numbers repeating themselves, is there any connection with spirits or disembodied beings?
No, it is a connection with spirit guides or the higher beings of light.
Okay. What are some such numbers?
111, 222, 1212, 1414, 555,
But why only the numbers?
Numbers have their own energy, just like planets have.
Out of all the major cities that we know, which is the most haunted, like Delhi, Mumbai, etc.?
Guwahati.
Oh, okay. What's your take on the concept of churels? And ऐसे ये बात सच है that you have this lady in white who has long hair, wet hair, and she's walking on a deserted road.
Wet, I don't know, but I have encountered a churel in my life, so I know it exists.
Okay.
In a different form, it totally exists.
But is it
Yeah.
one of those kinds of disembodied being?
Yes, it is a sort of a yoni that goes around, and there are some churels that fly.
Oh.
Yeah, the one I encountered was flying with our car. It took a long time to shake it off.
Okay. In some Indian traditions, people tie black threads or hang lemons or chilies to maybe ward off spirit. Is that a ritual that you would endorse?
Yes, it is because Jyeshta, which is a Lakshmi, which is the harbinger of everything that is not auspicious, including spirits, feeds on acidic stuff. And therefore, we say that please feed on this nimbu and mirchi and stay away from our house.
Acha. What about tying a black thread on the leg?
I do not recommend tying a thread on the leg. I recommend tying a thread on the arm. Anything tied on the leg is a bit of a disrespect to it, and it doesn't make any sense. Tying a black thread depends on your faith, how much you have faith in the deity that you have tied the thread off. Let's say it's Hanumanji or it's Ma Durga or it's Ma Kali. So it's an object of faith, and that's how it works. It's a bit of a placebo.
Okay. Is it true that certain strong fragrances such as jasmine and sandalwood attract disembodied being or ghosts?
Yes, it is said so. I've not personally experienced it, but I do believe that it is the case.
Of just these two
No,
fragrances?
not just these two. They say itra, what they call itra. Itra nahi laka ke rakhna chahiye, ya itra laka ke raat ko nahi jana chahiye, or don't open your hair and go out in the night, or don't have any meetha and go out in the night. It sort of attracts these entities towards you.
Okay, so if I'm going out to dinner and I have had a sweet dish or a dessert, then
Have soft after that. Keep elaichi in your mouth.
Okay.
Something like that. Usually, even in our houses, I remember my mother used to say, you've had dessert, because you know how in army houses, pudding is the last thing that you have. And then after that, you remember, they say walking orders are the soft.
Is there any time of the day when the prevalence of the spirits is greater than the other timings, such as I've heard people say 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. ऐसा कुछ है और?
Yeah, it's actually the midnight when, one thing is, one day is shifting and bleeding into the other. It starts around 11:30 in the night till about 3:30 in the morning.
Okay, so Sandhya Kal Brahma Muhurat, that kind of timing becomes... That's also a time when people are more meditative and it's like, people so they get into a flow when they're doing creative work. Is there any... Yeah, that timing particularly.
And I think that if people were not to do that, that would be better.
Okay.
I think we are beings that are naturally protected by the sun.
Right.
And so keeping the hours of the sun is an always more life force protection. Sun is our protection. So one of the things that you asked me, what is the biggest thing that can protect you from spirits, be in the sun. While you are in the sun, nothing can happen to you. The moment the sun goes down is when the emergence of the darkness comes up.
You've had a near-death experience, which was a watershed moment in your life. If you can please tell us and take us through that.
My near-death experience happened in the most common way possible. People have accidents and they have, out-of-body experiences. Mine was lying on my bed at night. Exactly at 10 a.m. was the last time I saw the watch. And as I was about to sleep, I experienced an intense heart attack-like feeling. I was 35. And I was in the bedroom alone. My dad was in another room and my kids were in another room. In those moments, I felt that I'm just going to pass away. So I said, okay, now that we are going to pass away, so sad. Everything flashes in front of you. I didn't do this. I hope my kids will be safe. All of that. And it just becomes like something was squeezing the breath out of me. And that, my heart was just being squeezed. And suddenly I felt something snapped out. And that something was my soul. So I said, okay, this is how death is. And it all happened very quickly. It would have happened, probably it would have taken 5 to 6 minutes. And when I stepped out of my body, stepped as in like rose above my body, I found myself on the ceiling fan. And I looked down and there was my body. And the pain was very intense. And I remember the regrets that we have when we are about to pass over. With that was mixed this whole fear that would a white light come to me. Who's come to take me? Because I couldn't see anyone. And there was so much of pain that I almost wanted to get out of that pain. So I can tell you that people who die in pain actually feel very relieved. Our body is a very tight, Shloka. It's like a very tight shoe and you're trying very hard to put your foot in it. And you'll only realize that when your soul leaves your body. So when I saw my body there, I said, oh God, now what? Is this how we die and why am I on the fan? And then slowly I noticed that there is a very thin silver cord that was coming out from my body into my, what I thought was me on the fan. I had not heard of this thing. I had not known what it is. I thought it must be an after-death experience. I kept waiting for the white light. Nobody came for me. No ancestors, nothing. Nothing happened. I heard a voice saying, you're not dead. I said, what? Really? And they said, we couldn't have had your attention any which way. We've been trying for years. And then a screen appeared in front of me, I think in my mind's eye, where I was shown different points in my life where I was nudged to embrace spirituality. And because I didn't understand it at that point in time, I didn't have a guru, I hadn't read those books. So I didn't know what to do. So yes, at that time for 2 days, I kept thinking, but I was not guided. So they showed me all those instances and they said, you've not died. You've just opened up. From here, there is no time to waste. I've written those messages even today. I read that notebook. You don't have time to waste. Get up and go do your work. I said, which work? So they said, you have to become this, and they told me the whole thing. I said, listen, if all this is real and I'm not hallucinating, then the moment I go into my body, I have to feel fine because I remembered how much pain I had suffered. So they said, okay. I said, no, you have to keep doing this for me for 5-6 days so that I believe you. And who are you, by the way? Who are you? Because I could only hear them. They were my spirit guides. And I heard like a large conference room open. Imagine a large door opening and inside there's a party of 10,000 people going on. You'll hear a lot of sound, like people talking to each other, giggling. I said, now what is this? So they said, this is the spirit world. Now you'll be able to connect to them. It made no sense. And they said, the purpose of your life will start from today. You have wasted so much of time that we are so disappointed in you. I said, okay, but nobody told me. They said, but we did. I said, but you didn't. I got admission in 3 medical colleges. I wanted to become a doctor. I ended up giving up all those 3 because something in my mind told me you have to become a different doctor, you have to become a different doctor. And I just didn't know what kind of different doctor I had to become. And it unraveled after so many years. So I went into my body and I felt like $1 million. I got up, I thought I could run a marathon, I could do anything. So I kept asking them for signs and they kept giving me signs and that's how it started. So it was not one of those glamorous, I was about to die and I had an accident or someone shot me. Sometimes I feel my experience was so ordinary that I want to tell people that it doesn't need to be extraordinary. It is what happens after the experience that matters. And then the courage to have left a 19-year-old path, which was my corporate life.
My last question to you is, mainstream scientists, a lot of mainstream scientists even today, because our podcast is primarily spirituality, of course we've dealt in this subject for the first time, they tout it as pseudoscience, and a lot of people, mainstream scientists would even dub this as pseudoscience. How would you refute that very briefly?
I won't refute that. To each his own.
Okay.
And I think we all have a set of beliefs and a filter through which we look at the world. And everyone's free to look at the world they want to look at. But I don't think that anybody should feel that something is impossible. Nothing is impossible. You may not have encountered it, doesn't mean it does not exist.
And science can only go so far, right? In proving things?
Yes. Because science has to be combined with art to move forward. Otherwise, it becomes restrictive. But it is everybody's world. It is everybody's thing. And everyone is free to choose what they'd like to see and experience in the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manmit. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. You're so articulate. Your presence is fantastic, and there's such clarity of thought. And I'm sure that it comes from the something higher.
It does.
So thank you so much.
I'm mostly channeling. Thank you, Shlloka. It was such a pleasure doing a podcast with you.
Thank you so much.
It matters a lot when the subject is, close to somebody's heart. They ask intelligent questions as opposed to looking in their phones and saying, "Ma'am, Ketu Dasha kaise aati hai?" And you know that they know nothing about it. So not to judge, but a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for co-creating the space and giving me this opportunity.
Arey, thanks.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed watching this content, you can watch the full in-depth video on the Body to Being podcast hosted on Shlloka YouTube channel. To continue watching shorter pieces of this content, you can subscribe to Shlloka Clips on YouTube. Don't forget to like this video and follow us on Spotify. Pranam. In case you'd like to be a part of our online and in-person yoga, diet and spiritual programs, you can join our WhatsApp group below, where we post all our upcoming programs and give free tips on health, diet and lifestyle.